Welcome in late, but we're here, and that is all that matters on this Thursday night. Appreciate you guys hanging out. It was a pain in the what? Get the little guy to bed. So we are here and in colors, live, all that good stuff as usual. Just a little bit late tonight, and that's okay. I'm Michael Borky. Glad that you guys are here. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And let's just dive right in. So silly season is here. That's the title of this, but the portal hasn't really even opened yet. And it's already getting a little bit crazy. And here's kind of what I've been thinking about over the last few days, to be honest, is how fans need to adjust the way they think. And here's what I mean by that, because there's all this debate and all this talk and fans getting on Twitter and texting radio shows and calling theirs, and there's so much discussion about why we're here or why what we're doing now is a problem in college football. There's so much of that discourse, and it's all focused around money and it's just ridiculous. Matt Rule said that quarterbacks are getting up to $2 million. That's crazy. That can't sustain all that discourse, all that conversation that fans are having is useless, in my opinion. There is no way that you're going to get a salary cap of any kind anytime soon. So even discussing that is kind of a waste of your time. There's no way you're changing, at least right now, NIL. Maybe that comes with arbitration and a collectively bargained agreement, but the university side and the NCAA side is going to hold out on that for as long as humanly possible. What I'm saying is right now, the system when it comes to NIL is what it's going to be. You're not putting that toothpaste back in the tube. Pair that with the ability as a 4-year player to enter the transfer portal 8 different times in your career, then you've got kind of chaos. But you can actually enjoy it as a fan if you change your mindset. This version of college football is not what we're used to. Now, I have talked many times, and a lot of people have, it's not unique to me, about how college football has always kind of been about money and benefits and stuff. Now, not to this scale, don't get me wrong. The money is far greater than anything pre-NIL, but that's kind of always been the dirty little secret about college football is money and benefits have driven a lot of how things have gone. But now that it's out in the open, now that it's like this, it's not what it used to feel like. Of course not. Now, the games are still awesome. The brands are still what they are. You love the uniform. You watch your team play. And if you're an Ole Miss fan, you loved this season. If you're a Mississippi State fan, you at least got a new coach out of it, right? So there's a lot of excitement about football around here. And the ratings numbers are through the roof. So the games themselves are actually great. The football product is still really, really awesome. So how do you manage this in between time? I know that you are a college football fan because you like college football more than the NFL, but I would start taking, this is my advice to you. You're free to take it. It could mean everything to you or nothing to you or somewhere in between. I don't know, but you can actually enjoy this process if you think about it differently, right? Stop worrying about, well, that player's not loyal to my school. Oh, this is terrible because he's not loyal. Well, your school likely brought in somebody from a year ago that wasn't loyal to their previous school and they helped you win games, right? Like if you're an Ole Miss fan and you're talking about loyalty, well, was Trey Harris loyal to Louisiana Tech? Well, of course not, but aren't you glad you got him? So drop this idea of loyalty because if a guy throws 3 interceptions or drops a wide open touchdown pass to lose a game, you'd be calling for some things about him too, right? So I always found the loyalty thing kind of hypocritical anyway. But start looking at this like the NFL. You're a Mississippi State fan. You need a quarterback, right? How many quarterbacks are in the portal right now? A ton of them. And so instead of whining about, oh, this is terrible because Will Rogers is gone, and pull up the transfer portal tracker and see who's in and what kind of connections Jeff Lebby may have to those guys or what kind of offense they've run previously. And you can spend the next few weeks engaged with Mississippi State football on, Who the hell's going to play quarterback for my team? Spin it. Make it something that you can enjoy. The concept of roster building, I think, is kind of fun. What does your team need? Well, I think Ole Miss is going to probably, I would assume, look for a rush end in the transfer portal. I think they kind of need one, maybe a linebacker. And so when a linebacker hits the portal and Ole Miss has reached out to this linebacker who played at UAB. I'm just making that up. I know a UAB linebacker hit the portal. I have no idea if Ole Miss is interested or not. But you can go watch his highlights and say, hey, this kid can play. And you turn it into an extra thing as a fan to enjoy and be excited about and engage with. Because if these kids want to be mercenaries, then let them be mercenaries. And if they want to transfer after 1 year, let them. But you can just as easily let that player go as you can welcome in a new one. And it's not difficult to keep up with this. There's a transfer portal tracker. Just punch it into Google. You can find it, and your roster still is posted on your school's website. I've never understood that criticism either. It's so hard to keep up with. No, it's not. Transfer portal tracker. Type it in on Google. Click on the first thing that comes up, and you can keep track of this every single day, and you can sort it to where it's just your team, guys out, guys in. It's really not that hard to keep up with. But take the NFL fan approach to it. I love draft time. I love free agency. Even though he stinks in the red zone, I enjoyed the courtship of Derek Carr. I thought that was a really interesting time to be a fan. What is he getting offered? What are the other teams involved? Does he fit New Orleans more than he fits this place? I enjoyed that. As a college football fan, you haven't really had to. It's been mostly focused around National Signing Day and recruiting. You've just got an extra layer of roster building to it. How much is that player worth? How much does the collective have? Well, it takes this amount of money to get a good linebacker. Well, you've got a running back that needs to get paid. Well, how much? The balancing of finances and roster building and stuff can be interesting if you let it. If you remove the idea of these are supposed to be college kids who love your school and just want to be there forever. They don't. So just don't worry about it anymore. Celebrate the ones that want to stick around, like J.J. Pegues, for example, or Nathaniel Watson at Mississippi State. He could have hit the portal last year, didn't. So celebrate those guys and enjoy the mercenary aspect of it. I don't know if that helped you at all. It's just kind of rambling, but I've been thinking about it a lot this week, where everybody's so uptight about how bad this is, but they don't look at it from that perspective. Your team has a chance to get better through this process. So enjoy the process instead of crying about how terrible it is. There's a chance that there's a linebacker out there that Ole Miss is going to go sign that's going to make the team better. There's a quarterback out there that Jeff Lebby's talking to probably right now that's going to make your team better. So enjoy the anticipation of that. It's just an extra thing as a fan to be engaged with if you look at it that way. So I will shut up now, and we can talk about it. The silly season is here. Players hitting the portal, signing places. Championship Saturday is upcoming. We've talked about playoff scenarios. If you guys want to do that, we certainly can. Although I am kind of exhausted by the debate right now. I think it's a terrible, terrible debate, and it shows how bad this process is. And I think the phrase, I think, when it comes to picking teams for a playoff should not be allowed to be said. And yet here we are. I think Oregon is better than Texas. And so if Oregon wins and Texas wins, Texas is going to be left out, even though Texas has a better win than Oregon and they have an identical record. So I'm kind of over that debate. But anyway, well, we'll chat for a while and then we'll get out of here. So, is Jordan Watkins transgender? You mean transferring? That is a hilarious mistake. I don't know. He might. I mean, look, Ole Miss is going to continue to try to recruit players. Maybe he's getting an offer that Ole Miss doesn't think he's worth. I'm just speculating. This is kind of the deal, right? Maybe somebody else thinks that he's worth that. Maybe he's sticking around. I don't know, but you think that Ole Miss is also not trying to upgrade the receiver room as well. So I think he would be of great value to the team next year. I think he's a really quality wide receiver. But if he does leave, that's the name of the game now. I guess we'll have to see. But anyway. Who do Rebel fans need to cheer for this weekend if they want a New Year's Six? Texas. Here's why I say that. Because if Louisville beats Florida State, 2 ACC teams are getting an Access Bowl bid. Louisville will quote unquote jump Ole Miss to get there, right? I think what you need to happen is to have. I don't think two SEC teams are getting in, frankly. Um, you'll have Georgia or the winner of the SEC championship. Either one's making it. Winner of the Pac 12 championship. Florida State, if they win, and Michigan, and left out would be Texas, right? But what if Florida State beats Louisville something like 14-12? Well, what if that happens? And Texas wins 40-14. Maybe there's a chance they put Texas in over Florida State. I think at this point, that's kind of the only way in terms of results Saturday that can change things. Now, the committee, I guess, could flip Ole Miss and Penn State, which would actually be, when it comes to a resume perspective, the right decision to make. That would be the appropriate thing for the committee to do, is to flip Ole Miss and Penn State. And if you want to look at tangible resume, despite how much crying Missouri fans do on X about whatever they think is true, Ole Miss's resume, the tangible, the stuff that you can put on paper, is better. So unless the committee does that, then I think what you want to happen is for Florida State to beat Louisville and somehow miss the playoff. I really think that that's kind of the only other option for Ole Miss. I have been told by somebody that would know that they are anticipating going to Orlando, that they are that's where they expect to go for whatever that's worth. You think Arkansas should take some inspiration from State, and instead of the four-wheeler, have Pittman and Petrino ride out on the tunnel of a motorcycle? Yeah. So many quarterbacks in the portal right now. Not many great ones. Now, there are good ones. There's some intriguing options, but like I guess UCLA's quarterback hitting the portal is pretty significant. But I'm not surprised by any of the other submissions, if that makes sense. But yes, there are good ones available for sure. The shuffling at that position is going to be nuts. We get another message. Quarterbacks are raiding the portal. Tampering is getting very noticeable. Yeah, and they're almost too obvious with it. Not like the NCAA is going to do anything about it, but I mean, a quarterback hits the portal, and literally the second it happens, his destinations are already known. Make it a little less obvious if you can. But that's the name of the game. I really wish that there was a way for that to crack down. I know there's not, but I do think that is a thing that actually needs to be stopped. I don't think players getting paid needs to be stopped. It just doesn't bother me. I think legal adults should be allowed to get money for whatever somebody's willing to give them money for. Players getting paid does not bother me. And that's easy for me to say as an NFL fan. I mean, I'm used to it, but the tampering thing, I don't know how you crack down on it. But I think that is something that truly bad is going on here. When players all year long are having to deal with somebody else trying to get them to go somewhere. I mean, could you imagine like your girlfriend constantly getting texted by exes or just other guys about going on dates? I mean, she could tell them no a bunch, but isn't that still a problem? Maybe that's not the best comparison, but you get my point. I mean, that's not something that the players should have to deal with until they put their name in the portal. I think that's a real problem, and I don't anticipate anything being done about it. But it does suck that these guys have to deal with that constantly, even if they don't want to deal with that. So the bowl game I think Ole Miss will play in is the Citrus Bowl against Iowa. That's what I think will happen. There's still a chance that they make an access, but that's what if I had to bet on that, that's what I'll bet on. So Chase listening to high school state championships tonight. That's West Point, right? Watch your Wave go for their 12th ring. If you're a fan of 70 rushes and 3 passes, you'll be in for a treat. Love that. When there's already schools being reported for guys getting in the portal, the tampering is so clear, like Notre Dame 2 years in a row with quarterbacks. Imagine that. I mean, you've got people like somebody that works for 24/7 said that if KJ Jefferson hits the portal, South Carolina is where he's going to go. It's like, I mean, what are we doing here? Can it not be any less obvious? But that is the name of the game, I guess. Once NIL or any payment of players goes into arbitration or universities personally get into funding players, the players are now employees, and that's a whole ball game changer for college sports. Yeah, the NCAA bungled this, and I have not seen a single solution that is better than the current system. Isn't that crazy? I haven't seen a solution that I think is better than the current system. I think the schools should foot the bill for NIL. Frankly, I do. I mean, when you've got coaches with $100 million guaranteed contracts, I think that it's totally reasonable to think that the players deserve some kind of a cut of that. Now, of course, their budgets, they break even because somehow magically their budgets grow every year and they've got $200 million budgets, and yet somehow they spend every dime of that. It's crazy how that works. But um, frankly, making them employees scares me because I think that lesser sports, quote unquote, are going to be the sacrificial lamb when it comes down to that, because you're not keeping everybody if you have to revenue split with the players, right? Or when you have to make them employees anyway. So even though I think that's kind of what they deserve, that the prospect of that can, change a lot of things. It's all kind of a mess. I still maintain what I've maintained for years now. Let it sort itself out. Crack down on the transfer portal, which is what they need to do. The 8 times in 4 years thing is ridiculous. If they can find a way to make like your initial letter of intent a 2 year commitment instead of a one, where the schools have to honor that as much as the player, then maybe that can help. The money's going to figure itself out, I think. You're already, uh, you're not seeing a market correction, not yet anyway. But I do think that day will come, and even if it doesn't, so what? We're 3 years into it, and I had more fun watching college football this season than I've had in a while, you know? I mean, it was still a really, really, really good year. The movement is what they need to crack down on, not the money. Let private entities, quote unquote, fund these guys to avoid having to cut the volleyball team. And I know a lot of people don't care about the volleyball team, but there's so much value in the non-revenue sports in college, and I know a lot of them exist only to make sure that they break even. But I don't want to see them go away. I think that would disproportionately affect women as well if you made them employees, because there wouldn't be Title IX to adhere to anymore, right? At least I don't think so. I mean, it becomes a mess. So crack down on the portal and let NIL be the compensation model and preserve volleyball and golf and tennis and swimming and diving and stuff like that, because there's a lot of value in those sports and they matter and they change people's lives, and getting rid of those, I think, would be a really bad thing. I agree. You think there's going to be a natural market reset after a while, not because of the NCAA, but from people refusing to pay so much that they do. KJ Jefferson said he's not made a decision yet, but let's be real. He's going to reunite with Bryles, join Lebby at MSU, etc. Yeah, like I just said, I think South Carolina people seem to think that that's where he'll end up. Remember, a former Arkansas assistant is now the OC at South Carolina. So that's where that connection is coming from. So people do think that that is where he will end up, but we will see. You'll take him if he comes, but you want Jefferson as a fail-safe. He's more of a bruising Mullen-style quarterback. This system needs more of a Hendon Hooker run-and-shoot style quarterback. Absolutely, yes. I mean, I think if you get KJ Jefferson, you feel really good about that, of course, but he's not exactly the fit of that offense that they're looking for. Quite frankly, Chase, the last two quarterbacks that were at Ole Miss fit that perfectly. And obviously, Matt Corral was running, a Jeff Lebby coordinated offense with the heavy influence from Kiffin, of course. But I mean, the last two Ole Miss quarterbacks are the style of guy that you're looking for at State right now. Did the coaching carousel kind of die for the major schools? Yeah, not many jobs came open, frankly. So, I mean, they got filled quickly. Indiana made a nice hire today. The A&M thing was a disaster. State made a hire. I mean, Michigan State had been open for a while. They hired the guy from the Oregon State program that is just completely just taking just gut punch after gut punch on a weekly basis. And I mean, that's kind of it, right? There weren't that many jobs that came open this cycle. So yeah, it ended quickly. The NIL price is going through the roof. Yes, yes, it is. Yes, it is. Like anything, when you spend too much money on one thing, your checkbook will teach you not to do that again. Same with NIL and portal. Next year is going to be the most hyped Ole Miss team since when? That's a great question, Lane, because, I mean, here's why I love the 12-team playoff so much. Aside from it eliminates this BS debate like between Texas and Oregon as if one team is actually more deserving than the other. They're not. They're equal, and one's going to get left out because this is stupid. I want more meaningful football games. That matters. But especially for programs like the ones here, let's be honest. They weren't making the playoff. Not the 4-team iteration of it, right? They weren't making it. But now this offseason, I mean, really starting now, bowl game result to me doesn't matter when it comes to the hype that this team is going to receive. Returning quarterback, the expectation is returning running back. Hell, there's a chance they return tight end and wide receiver 1. We'll see if that happens or not. I don't know, but we'll see. This team is returning a lot. And a third-year quarterback coming off of a 10-win season. Starting now for the next 8 months, we are going to get to talk about the Ole Miss season ending in the playoff. And not only is it not far-fetched, it is a team that is built to make that kind of a run in a schedule. Despite having Georgia on it, you can lose 2 games and still make the playoff. And it's not the most difficult schedule in the world. There's more difficult this year in the SEC than this one. So for 8 months, for the first time ever, and the playoff, has only been around since 2014, but in the BCS era as well, for the first time ever, we will get to spend an offseason talking about Ole Miss, or a team in Mississippi, if you prefer, making the playoff. Now, think about that. Think about how much more enjoyable as a fan the offseason is going to be. So on top of the portal stuff that you're going to get and adding players to your roster and spring practice is going to come and all that, but every conversation is going to point to this team can make the playoff. Here's their path. What are the toss-up games? What are the must-win games? What are the games that they're probably going to lose? What do you expect the Dart Heisman odds to be going into the season? I mean, all that stuff is a real conversation. It's not far-fetched. It's not crazy. It's not pie in the sky. It's if this team can get 10 wins in this 12-game schedule, then they will make the playoff next year. And you get 8 months of that. And that's going to be so much fun because, look, I love Mississippi and I love what I do in Mississippi. But sometimes the conversation of can they get, what kind of bowl game are they going to go to? It's hard to try to sell that to people, It's hard to sell that to people. This won't be hard to sell. This is going to be the best offseason ever because of that. And, of course, they have to go and execute and play and win games to get there. But the fact that this is a realistic conversation is awesome, and it changes things. Matt Rule's statement was very refreshing to hear, just saying how it is. Quarterbacks are going for multi-millions. They are. They absolutely are. I made the mistake today bringing up on the radio show, and I qualified it perfectly. We were talking about this and just the how things have changed and the money involved and roster acquisition and balancing all this today. And I qualified it well where I was like, it's not going to happen. I'm just using this as an example. Okay. It's just an example. The expectation is he's going to stay at Ole Miss. There's no reason to think that he's not going to. However, imagine what Jackson Dart could get if he were to hit the transfer portal. It's more than what Ole Miss is going to pay him for 2024. And we got like 6 texts. He's not leaving. What are you talking about? He's leaving. He's leaving. What are you talking about? It's like, I swear I qualified it well enough. But Jackson Dart could, he's not going to, at least I don't think, nobody thinks, He could get more in the portal than what he's going to get paid for by Ole Miss. That's awesome when you think about it. But he could be, I think, a $2 million quarterback if they played it the right way and got certain couple of schools like in a bidding war with each other. He is the best quarterback. Um, if he were to, and he's not going to, the qualifier, he's not. I don't think he's going to. There's no reason to think he's going to. It's just a topic of conversation that we had. I think that he would be the best one in the portal at the moment, and you could drive that price up so much. Doesn't sound like he's going to do it, but he could. And yeah, I do think that he could be a multi-million-dollar, which would be just two, like $1.5 to $2 million quarterback for the right team. I think so. Especially after hearing what Auburn offered a couple people last year. Yeah, he could definitely do that. What are the odds Will Rogers ends up in Arkansas and KJ ends up with Levy? I mean, KJ knows that system in and out. It will be interesting to see what Petrino can bring in. Paul, I don't mean to be disrespectful to the individual. Arkansas and Bobby Petrino can bring in better than that. Aim higher is what I'll say there. That they can do better than that, and they should. Now it's going to cost, but they should. It's like the NFL quarterback market. You'll keep paying $40 million and up with upper level good, not elite quarterbacks because you can't let them walk. They'll go up and up and up until it resets. Ask the Saints and Derek Carr. See what paying Zeke and Todd Gurley and getting no return did to the running back market. It plummeted that running back market. Plummeted the running back market. You hope all the favorites, other than Oregon, lose, forcing the college football playoff to put Alabama at 1, Oregon 2, Georgia 3, and Washington at 4. It would be awesome. SEC dominance continues, and the Pac-12 didn't need to die. God, that would be hilarious, wouldn't it? Yeah, just have Texas lose to Oklahoma State. And, in that scenario, would Ohio State sneak in that scenario? Oh, God. No, right? There's no way. There's no way. But that would be fun. I would prefer that than it go to chalk, that's for sure. Moving to the conference title games, you kind of think Alabama's going to beat Georgia. Bama got a new lease on their season with the 4th and 31, and they obviously have the roster and coach to beat Georgia again. I don't think Alabama's explosive enough on offense to win this game, and I think Georgia is. Georgia's too balanced and explosive, and I think they're going to be able to score even on that really good Alabama defense. And I don't have faith in Alabama in that environment scoring with Georgia. But I'm often wrong. If Bo Nix or Carson Beck or someone else broke their leg this weekend, are they also not playoff worthy? That is exactly my argument, Edward. That's exactly my point. That's what I can't stand about this. It's when you do the subjective. Well, Florida State's clearly not better without their quarterback. Well, how much not better are they? How much? So I cannot stand it. I hate it. I'm glad it's going away because if Oregon and Texas both win their conference championship, Texas is going to get left out. Why? Well, Oregon's looked better. To your eyes. Have they looked better, though? Is their schedule more difficult? Because Oregon's most difficult road game, they lost, remember. Texas's most difficult road game, they went to Tuscaloosa and won. So, well, Oregon lost to Washington. And Texas lost to Oklahoma on a neutral site. Yeah, Oklahoma's ranked 14th? Washington, if they lose, will be 5th or 6th. Is there really that much of a difference between the two when one of them has a better win than the other? I mean, that's what we're talking about. It's all subjective. It's all stupid. I can't stand it. When did this standing on business thing start? I have no idea. I'm not up with the times. I am not up with the times. If Michigan, Georgia, Florida State, and Washington/Oregon win, they can all say something no other team can. We beat every team that was on our schedule. You have no argument there. That's the cleanest 4. Texas is next. But here's the thing. So we would reward Oregon for getting a rematch, but fault Texas for not having that opportunity. So Oregon is going to get the benefit because they got to avenge their loss by happenstance as a anyway. You think Florida State, barring a 2014 Ohio State 59-0 win over Wisconsin, they're going to get left out? It sucks, but that's just my opinion. If Texas dominates and they don't, there's a chance that that's what happens. Ohio State is drawing dead. Yes, they are. They don't belong at all. I don't care what happens. They don't belong. You could have chaos beyond all recognition, and Ohio State does not belong in the playoff at any point. The auto ACC bowl tie-in is the problem. Yes, that's the problem for Ole Miss. If Florida State wins and gets left out, that likely puts Ole Miss in an NY6. Yes, that would be the thing that seals it. I'm a little bit behind on you guys. NIL is fine. Portal must end. Go back to a one-time transfer. I agree. The money's not the issue. It's the movement that's the issue. What would I set the line for an Ole Miss-Iowa matchup? Ole Miss minus 10. You saw a minus 14 a few weeks ago. That would be it, I think. Ole Miss minus 14. Iowa just can't score on literally anybody. So it would be a really frustrating game to watch, I think, for fans. Iowa's defense is great, objectively, great. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 17-3. I mean, a really just kind of a slog of a football game. You wonder if DJ Uiagalelei will head back to the ACC. And yes, you Googled his last name. My first thought was he's just going to follow his coach to Michigan State, but there was a mention of him possibly testing the NFL waters. So maybe he ends up there. With the Pac-12 gone, is the Big 12 going to pick up that auto bid on off years, or is the 12-team college football playoff eating all of that up? So what it's going to be is 5 plus 7. So the 5 highest-ranked conference champions, which on an annual basis will be one from each of the Power 4 now since the Pac-12 has gone away, and then the highest-ranked group of 5, and then 7 at-larges. That's what it's going to be moving forward. You're kind of surprised Rattler declared. Yeah, I'm not. At some point, you just got to go, right? I don't know how much more he could do with his stock. Maybe he didn't have a degree yet, which would be kind of funny, and so he couldn't transfer without getting a waiver, and that would be a mess. You probably don't want to return to South Carolina with this team and your best receiver hitting the portal. So, I mean, he played really well this year. I do think he improved a lot of what people thought about him this season. And so maybe he's just, some guys are just ready to go, Ole Miss got great news from Musa Cisse. They did. Yeah, he will help. Rebounding in defense and size, he will help a lot. And there will be hilarious lineups where they have he and Sharp on the floor at the same time. So you'll have 7 foot and 7'5" on the floor at the same time. Like when they run into these bad shooting teams, they can just put those 2 bigs in there and protect the basket, and it will be objectively hilarious to watch those 2 lineups. I mean, hilarious. You like the grad transfer rule, and you liked if the coaching staff that recruited you gets fired or leaves, you can transfer. Makes too much sense, doesn't it? Now, you love college sports. With that being said, if college players actually became employees, you will switch to pro sports only. Because it would become pro sports with a worse product. Nowhere else in life can you not job hop, but places will make you sign non-compete. So something like non-compete clauses and scholarships or NIL money, but you have to try to let collectives be the funding. Yes. I mean, I think that the letter of intent should just be, this would solve a lot of things. The letter of intent's a 2-year contract. The first one. After that, you transfer, whatever. But the first one is a 2-year deal. My biggest issue with the portal is these guys that they're freshmen. They're not physically ready to play big-time college football, and they hit the portal after a year. Like, what did you expect to play? Where are you going? You have nothing on film at all. You didn't play because you weren't ready, and that's okay. Where are you going? A lot of bad advice being given to these kids, but it's what they wanted. So you reap what you sow. Auburn is definitely big-time tampering for quarterbacks. Freeze is going to need to win probably 8+ games to avoid the hot seat. Yeah, they did that last year too. Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I'm not supposed to say that. But yeah, Auburn is going to do the we are desperate for a quarterback thing again this offseason. So Speaking of hot seat, over under 3.5 SEC jobs open at the end of the season. Most likely candidates South Carolina, Florida, Arkansas, and Vandy. So that's four right there. So that would hit your over. And that also doesn't take into account a coach that could possibly leave an SEC school for whatever reason. So, yeah, I think that over under at 3.5 is a good one. Yes, Ole Miss was ranked number 4 in 2009, but remember that was pre-playoff era, and then they lost really early, so that kind of harmed things a little bit. But 2024 will probably be in the top 15, close to top 10, maybe, especially if they win the bowl game. If they win the bowl game, and again, I don't think that result really matters in terms of the total context of the conversation, because the team's not going to change depending on the result of the bowl game, right? It's still like all of those things are true. But if they happen to win that game and get to 11-2, and they're also returning all of that, it'll be a top 10 team, I think, going into next year. You're going to get a truck in 3 months, a Ford. I am contractually obligated to tell you to get a Ford at your local Mississippi Ford dealer. Yeah, but the F-150 rules, man. It's a great truck. So, yeah, this is one of our favorite offseason topics as we combine the two rosters of Ole Miss and Mississippi State and see how that team would stack up against the rest of college football. I was the other two on the show disagreed with me when I said if you combine the two rosters, then you would have a team on par with Georgia. They told me I was wrong. I disagree with that. I think that if Ole Miss could pick and choose players from Mississippi State's roster, they would have lined up with Georgia. You know, maybe they don't win the game, but they certainly could have lined up with them better than they did in Athens a few weeks ago. So, you don't expect him to leave, but you would be shocked if his phone, I think you're talking about Dart, didn't ring from a Columbus, Ohio area code with a big number. That's what they should do. He's going to tell them no, but that's if I was Ohio State, that's what I'd be doing. Meanwhile, Arkansas gets a whole state to themselves and constantly flounders in football. You know what that tells you? That efficiency is what matters the most. Look at Texas A&M. They got all the money in the world. They're not efficient with it. Efficiency is the thing. Now, Georgia and Alabama recruit the best players in the country. That certainly helps, but so does Texas A&M. What's the difference between Georgia and Alabama and Texas A&M? I mean, the answer is coaching, but what's the root of it? Efficiency. There's not wasted time. There's not wasted energy. It is structured. It is a process, a system at those two places. That's not what Texas A&M is, and that's your difference. Ole Miss is a better football program than Arkansas, has been for a decade plus. Why is that? Arkansas has more money. They're in a state by themselves. Why is Ole Miss better? They're more efficient. They hire better, and they're more efficient. Feels like if Arkansas is going to step it up in football, it's either going to come with this next hire or just not at all. No to Texas because you don't want to hear ESPN for the next year as they wait to enter the SEC. Oh, don't worry, Drew. This offseason is going to be insufferable. SEC Media Days is in Dallas, by the way. The league office just decided to not haze the rookie. Oh, no. We're laying out the red carpet for him. It's just, oh, my gosh, we're just going to do this Texas thing in Dallas this year. That's the downside of this offseason. It's going to be great around here for hype purposes. But we're going to have to talk about Texas or hear people talk about Texas all the time. That's going to be terrible. Texas finally looked like one of the top 4 teams last week. They have potential. We've seen it. Absolutely. If chaos reigns this weekend, Ohio State could be playoff bound. I don't think that they should be allowed. I think that they're losing to a coachless Michigan should have them banned from the playoff. If Florida State gets left out. But again, they have to get left out after winning to make this work. But And SMU upsets Tulane. We could see Ole Miss, SMU in the Cotton Bowl or Peach. That would stink to draw SMU, truthfully. I mean, it's a big game and you play it and you probably win because they're down a quarterback and the roster discrepancies, but that wouldn't be the reward that going to an Access Bowl should be. Beef up the Ole Miss lines, and they're a contender next year. They are currently working on that. I can promise you, I can promise you that. Yes, they do need help there. Now, on the defensive line, they had really good depth and like productive depth. They need to find a way to get an impact guy. An impact, really what they need is an impact pass rusher. Somebody that you fear, and those are expensive and those are hard to find and they almost don't exist. But I like the depth that they have there and that they'll have returning in uh, the the role players that they have fit nicely. It's just they didn't have the person that you feared. We'll see if they can go find that guy. You've said for years that branding trumps all logic when debating playoff teams. Bama, Ohio State, USC, if at all possible, will always get in. They make the criteria fit to get them in. Kind of like when the NBA created new rules for the bubble just to get Zion in. Remember that? Yeah, the Pelicans were on the fringe. I mean, very much on the fringe of making the postseason, and they just decided to change the rules so they could get Zion in, and then he showed up out of shape, and they played like crap, and they lost, and so they did all that for nothing. But yeah, it's the money makers get special treatment. Finally, we have a good Thursday night game. Yeah, I'm gonna go check that out when we're done here. We'll watch that when we're done, which will be here in a minute. I'm going to run through the rest of these and then we'll get out of here. Iowa and Kansas State are probably the most efficient program since the 2000s. That's a really good point. Why is Kansas State good? They're efficient. Iowa's just they got the meat and potatoes boys on the offensive lines and they play great defense, but the skill positions there are pathetic. But yeah, it's efficient. It's program efficiency that. And Kansas State hired really well as well with Kleiman too. 14-7 West Point. Golden Triangle is an absolute machine in high school football, no doubt, no doubt. Why does there need to be a program for releasing the 2024 schedule? Like half of it is out already in order. Just let us have the whole thing. Because you can sell it to advertisers and make money and create a news cycle out of it. That's why. It's that simple. Just create another news cycle, another reason for people to be talking about you when nothing else is going on. It's that's a page out of the NFL playbook. And I'm kind of glad that they decided to start doing it this way because here in 2 weeks, guys, we'll just have a random night when it comes out. We'll get to talk about football schedules in the middle of December when nothing else is really going on. So I'm kind of looking forward to that, actually. I appreciate them doing that for me in the content game. The reason Missouri's ahead of Ole Miss is, one, they are likely a better team, and two, they are in new waters. 10 wins is bigger for them than Ole Miss in the nation's media's eyes. I hear you, and I hear the eye test stuff, but the likely a better team, we have objective measures that say that they're not. Knoxville, Louisville, West Point, and Starkville will always have 2 of the 4 at the minimum in the title games. Always, man. Little football factory over there. If Ole Miss played in the East, they'd probably already have an 11-win season way before now, maybe 12, possibly. 2016 possibly would have been a 12 until the wheels fell off of the program. Oh, geez. Missouri made it when the East had no national champion caliber team on that side. Ole Miss might have gone if Saban wasn't in the West this whole time. And then this Ole Miss team happens to draw Georgia on the road, right? I mean, what great timing that is. Best conference in the country deserves to have media days in one of the largest television markets. Who cares? We're just catering to Texas. No, I understand why they're doing it. It's marketing. That's all that is. I'm just complaining because we don't need to throw Texas a bone. How dominant would Georgia be if Kiffin was there? Not any more dominant than they are right now. How long until the G5 forms a playoff? I think that is coming one day. It'll be here soon. But Ole Miss basketball looking good. Yeah, I think I hope that that win didn't create unrealistic expectations for the team. There are still going to be growing pains this year. There are. They're going to lose games. If they get to 500 in the SEC, it's a beyond successful season. If they're just playing meaningful games in February, then it's a success in year one. So, yes, they looked on Tuesday better than I expected they would at really any point this season. Um, Chris Beard's a hell of a coach, and I mean, hell, if they win on Saturday, then you're talking about a ranked team 7 games in. That's what would happen. So I think it's a free shot, though. Losing to Memphis doesn't hurt you at all. This is a good Memphis team. If you lose, you lose. So what? Year one is a build. I know they're trying to win, but it's a build. And losing to Memphis, there's nothing to be ashamed of there whatsoever. So Caden Costa in the portal, yeah. I think the other Caden. I mean, trying to do 1+1 = 2 here, but the other Caden, I would expect back. So, you're not going to get two good kickers to sit behind each other for very long. So I think that's all that came from. But anyway, I got to run, guys. Thank you so much. As always, we'll be back. We'll be back Sunday. We'll actually talk about football and championship Saturday and where the teams need to be and all that on Sunday night. Yes, Caden Davis does have a COVID year if he wants to take it. So that's my assumption that he's coming back. That's how I read into that, but could be wrong. So anyway, thank you guys. I will see you on Sunday. You guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you then.